Hi guys, tonight, we travel back into the world's most forgotten history. Close your eyes, relax, and drift into history. Welcome to another quiet journey through the past. Tonight's story begins in a distant forgotten age. Settle in, and let history slowly fade you into sleep. This is boring history for sleep. Relax, and step gently into the ancient world. Tonight, history becomes calm, quiet, and sleepy. Let the past carry you softly into sleep. In tonight's slow and peaceful history story, we leave behind loud places and hurried thoughts. We step onto warm earth that has been walked for thousands of years. The air is still. The sky above the Nile is turning from deep blue into the soft gray of approaching dawn. A gentle breeze moves across quiet water, carrying the coolness of the river before another day of desert heat begins. The world around you is simple. There are no rushing carts, no ringing bells, no voices calling across great distances. There is only the quiet sound of water brushing against reeds. Somewhere in the darkness, a bird lets out a sleepy call. Small waves touch the muddy banks again and again, always returning in the same peaceful rhythm. Not far away, rows of mud brick homes rest beneath the fading stars. Their flat roofs hold the coolness of the night a little longer. The walls have gathered dust from countless seasons, yet they still stand much as they always have. They are homes built by careful hands, repaired year after year, never changing very much because they do not need to. Inside one of these homes, a family is still asleep. The room is small. A woven mat lies on the floor beside simple wooden furniture. Clay jars stand quietly against the wall. A basket of grain waits patiently in the corner. Everything has its place. Nothing feels unnecessary. The silence is comforting. Soon the day will begin, just as it did yesterday, and the day before that, and the year before that. It is this endless rhythm that shaped life in ancient Egypt. For most people, change was not something they expected. It was not something they searched for. Life moved like the river itself, steady, dependable, familiar. That is why Egyptian life rarely changed. When we think about ancient Egypt today, great pyramids often rise first into our imagination. Tall temples carved with beautiful stone figures seem almost beyond belief. We remember kings wearing shining crowns and queens wrapped in fine linen. Yet these remarkable people were only a tiny part of a much larger world. Most Egyptians never wore gold. Most never entered grand palaces. Most never traveled far from the place where they were born. Instead, they woke each morning to fields, workshops, fishing boats, ovens, and dusty roads. Their hands became rough from work. Their feet knew every stone on familiar paths. Their lives were filled with ordinary moments that quietly repeated themselves through the passing years. For them, routine was not dull. Routine was safety. The Nile River helped make this possible. Every year, the river followed its own patient schedule. It rose with the floods. It spread rich black soil across the land. Then the waters slowly pulled back, leaving fresh earth ready for planting. The people learned to trust this cycle. Their fathers had trusted it. Their grandmothers had trusted it. Children grew up watching exactly the same pattern unfold. As long as the river behaved as expected, life continued gently forward. Morning after morning, long before the sun climbed high into the sky, families slowly opened their eyes. The coolest hours of the day were precious. Workers wanted to begin before the heavy heat settled across the fields and villages. A mother quietly sat beside a small grinding stone. She poured grain into its shallow center. Slowly, steadily, she pushed the upper stone back and forth. The sound was soft. Stone against stone. Again. 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 It was one of the oldest sounds in Egypt. Nearby, another family did exactly the same thing. And another. Thousands of homes welcomed the morning with this familiar rhythm. Fresh flour gathered in simple bowls. Soon bread would be made. Bread was more than food. It was part of nearly every day of life. The smell of baking dough slowly filled narrow streets as ovens warmed beneath clay walls. Smoke drifted upward into brightening skies. Children rubbed sleepy eyes while waiting for breakfast. Fathers prepared tools that had already served many seasons. Little changed from one morning to the next. Wooden handles became smoother from years of use. Copper blades were sharpened carefully. Ropes were checked. Baskets repaired. Everything was cared for because replacing things was not easy. Objects often stayed with families for many years. Outside, the first light touched the river. Fishermen were already awake. Their boats rested quietly against the shore. Papyrus reeds whispered softly in the breeze. The fishermen pushed their narrow boats into calm water without speaking very much. They had done this so many times that words were unnecessary. Each movement came naturally. A paddle dipped into the river. Small circles spread across the water. The boat glided forward. Fish could not be hurried. Neither could the river. Patience filled nearly every kind of work in ancient Egypt. Farmers also understood patience. Seeds did not grow overnight. Fields needed careful attention. Water had to be guided into canals. Plants needed watching. Harvest came only after many weeks beneath the sun. Every season asked people to wait. This slow pace shaped the minds of those who lived here. Life itself became steady, predictable, gentle. In one village, an elderly man stepped outside his home. His sandals pressed softly into dusty ground. He paused for a moment before beginning another day. The sky was beautiful. Thin clouds glowed with pale gold. Palm trees stood quietly in the distance. He had seen this view thousands of times. Yet perhaps he still appreciated it. Not because it was rare, but because it was familiar. There is comfort in familiar things. The ancient Egyptians understood this deeply. Many families lived close to one another. Neighbors knew each other's voices. Children played in the same open spaces year after year. Grandparents watched younger generations grow beside the same walls where they themselves had once played. Entire lives could unfold within a surprisingly small distance. Travel was possible, but not common for ordinary workers. Most people remained close to home. The village became their whole world. Its streets were known. Its people trusted. Its routines remembered. As the sun climbed higher, the warmth began to spread. The pleasant coolness of dawn slowly disappeared. Shadows became shorter. The air grew heavier. Workers wiped sweat from their foreheads before continuing their tasks. The desert sun asked much from every person. Builders felt its weight while lifting stone. Farmers felt it while bending over fields. Servants carried water beneath its brightness. Scribes carefully worked inside shaded rooms whenever possible, protecting precious sheets of papyrus from dust and wind. Even those whose work seemed less physical grew tired. Heat settled over everyone. Yet this, too, was expected. Nobody was surprised by summer. Nobody expected easier days. The seasons followed familiar paths. People adapted. Again and again. A young boy followed his father toward the fields. He carried only a small basket. His father balanced larger tools across one shoulder. The boy watched carefully. He was learning. Not through books. Not through long speeches. But simply by walking beside someone who already knew. One day those same tools would belong to him. His own son might someday carry them in exactly the same way. Knowledge quietly passed from hand to hand. Generation after generation. Many jobs remained inside families. A potter's child often became another potter. A fisherman raised another fisherman. Skills were learned through watching. Hands remembered movements before minds fully understood them. In a crowded workshop, the sound of careful labor filled the air. Wood scraped against wood. Stone touched stone. A hammer struck gently. Someone twisted rope from plant fibers. Another shaped clay into bowls. The pace never felt rushed. Good work required calm attention. There was little reason to hurry. The day was long. The work would continue until evening. Outside the workshop, merchants slowly arranged goods beneath shaded coverings. Baskets held onions, dates, beans, and fresh bread. Clay jars contained beer made from grain. Simple fabrics hung nearby. Customers came quietly throughout the day. Many recognized each other immediately. Buying food was not only practical. It was part of the familiar rhythm of village life. Faces returned week after week. The same conversations drifted gently through warm air. A question about the harvest. A quiet remark about the weather. A greeting exchanged with an old friend. Nothing needed to be exciting. Comfort often grows from repetition. Perhaps that is one reason Egyptian society remained so stable for so long. People knew what tomorrow would probably look like. That certainty offered peace. Even difficult work became easier when it followed familiar patterns. At midday, the heat became almost overwhelming. Light reflected brightly from pale stone walls. Dust floated through still air. Workers searched for whatever shade they could find. Some rested beneath trees. Others sat beside unfinished buildings. They ate simple meals. Bread. Onions. Perhaps dried fish. Maybe figs or dates when available. Water cooled inside clay jars. Conversations remained quiet. There was little energy for loud voices beneath the afternoon sun. Children rested beside their mothers. Even animals seemed slower. Goats gathered beneath narrow shadows. Dogs stretched across cool patches of earth. Donkeys stood patiently, waiting for work to begin again. Everything seemed to breathe more slowly. As afternoon gradually softened, work continued. There were always walls to repair. Canals to clean. Nets to mend. Grain to measure. Clothing to weave. The tasks changed with the seasons, but the rhythm remained familiar. Each person understood their place inside the community. That place rarely shifted dramatically. For many people, this was simply the natural order of life. A scribe sat cross-legged with careful posture. His reed pen moved gently across papyrus. Numbers filled neat columns. Grain deliveries. Storage records. Worker attendance. Taxes. His writing looked beautiful, yet his daily routine was also repetitive. Even knowledge followed schedules. Records had to be kept. Supplies counted. Messages copied. His fingers carried out movements learned many years earlier. Nearby, temple workers swept stone floors before lighting fresh oil lamps. The cool interior smelled faintly of incense. Columns stretched upward into shadow. Soft footsteps echoed through quiet halls. Religious life itself followed regular ceremonies. Prayers returned each day. Offerings appeared at expected times. Sacred traditions changed very little because they connected people with generations that came before them. The gods represented stability as much as mystery. Maintaining balance felt deeply important. Many Egyptians believed that harmony helped hold the world together. Perhaps that belief encouraged people to value steady routines instead of constant change. Evening eventually approached. The fierce brightness slowly faded. Long shadows stretched across fields. The air became easier to breathe. Workers began walking home. Their shoulders were tired. Their feet carried dust gathered through another ordinary day. Children met them along familiar paths. Families slowly gathered again beneath the same roofs they had left before sunrise. Cooking fires came alive once more. The smell of fresh bread returned. Vegetables simmered inside clay pots. Simple meals were shared. Voices remained gentle. There was comfort in being together after hours of labor. No one expected grand entertainment. Rest itself was precious. As darkness settled across the village, stars slowly appeared above Egypt. The desert sky became wonderfully clear. Without bright lights, every constellation seemed close enough to touch. People looked upward just as countless generations had done before them. The same stars watched over their grandparents. The same moon reflected across the Nile. The same quiet night embraced every humble home. Inside one small house, an elderly woman repaired worn clothing by the light of a tiny oil lamp. Its flame flickered gently. Needle passed through cloth. Again. 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 Outside, insects sang softly. The village gradually became quieter. One by one, conversations ended. Doors closed. Animals settled. The sounds of labor disappeared until morning. Only the river continued moving through the darkness. Always flowing. Always returning. Always familiar. Its quiet voice reminded everyone that another dawn would come, bringing another day much like the last. And for the people of ancient Egypt, that sameness was not an accident. It was the foundation upon which ordinary life gently rested. The river, the fields, the homes, the bread ovens, the workshops, the dusty roads, and the peaceful silence of evening all worked together to create a world where generations could live without expecting dramatic change. Night wrapped itself around the village with quiet kindness. The warm stones slowly released the heat they had gathered throughout the day. A faint breeze crossed the Nile once more, slipping through reeds and brushing gently against the mud brick walls where sleeping families rested. Tomorrow would arrive softly. The grinding stones would sing again before sunrise. The fishermen would push their boats into calm water. The farmers would step back into their fields. Children would watch, learn, and slowly grow into the same careful routines that had shaped their parents and grandparents. Without anyone announcing it, another peaceful day would begin almost exactly as the last one had ended, carried forward by the quiet rhythm that had guided Egyptian life for countless generations. The night grows deeper, but ancient Egypt never feels completely asleep. Somewhere beyond the quiet homes, the Nile continues its endless journey. The river asks for nothing. It simply flows beneath the moon, carrying cool water through a warm land. Gentle waves touch the muddy banks with a sound so soft that it almost disappears into the stillness. A fisherman wakes before anyone calls his name. He has done this for so many years that no voice is needed. His body understands the hour before his mind fully wakes. He sits for a moment on a woven mat, listening to the peaceful silence inside his home. His wife and children are still sleeping. One child has curled beneath a simple linen cloth. Another rests with an arm stretched across a small wooden pillow. The room is quiet except for slow breathing and the faint crackle of an oil lamp that has almost burned itself out. The fisherman stands slowly. His knees feel stiff from many years beside the river. His hands are rough. Small scars cover his fingers where fish spines and woven nets have left their quiet marks over the years. He reaches for the same fishing net he folded the evening before. Every knot is familiar. Every repaired section tells a small story. He remembers where one cord snapped during a strong current many summers ago. Another patch reminds him of a day when crocodiles came closer than usual. Most of the net has lasted through many seasons because replacing it takes time and careful work. Nothing is wasted. That simple idea touches nearly every part of Egyptian life. A broken basket is repaired. A worn sandal receives another leather strap. A cracked clay jar is patched if possible. Fresh materials are valuable, but skilled hands are even more valuable. Long before the first light appears, the fisherman steps outside. The village feels almost frozen beneath the stars. Mud brick walls cast dark shapes across narrow paths. Palm trees sway gently. Somewhere nearby, a donkey shifts its weight before settling again into sleep. His sandals press softly against cool earth. He walks without hurry. There is no reason to rush toward a river that has waited for thousands of years. As he reaches the shoreline, a faint mist hangs above the water. It will disappear as soon as the sun begins to warm the air, but for now it gives the river a peaceful, dreamlike appearance. The fisherman unties his small boat. The rope slides quietly through his hands. He steps inside with practiced balance. The wooden hull rocks gently before becoming still once more. His paddle enters the water with hardly a sound. Each slow movement carries him farther from shore. The village becomes smaller behind him. Ahead lies only open water, reeds, and the promise of another ordinary morning. Many people today imagine ancient life as a series of remarkable adventures. But for this fisherman, excitement is not the goal. A calm day with enough fish for his family is far more valuable than unexpected events. Predictable days feed hungry children. Routine keeps people alive. The first birds begin to sing. Darkness slowly softens into gray. Then pale gold spreads across the eastern horizon. Sunrise arrives without ceremony. It has happened every morning of his life. His father watched the same light climb above the river. His grandfather likely smiled at these same colors. The sun feels almost like another member of the community, arriving faithfully each day without fail. Back in the village, another home begins to wake. A young woman kneels beside a grinding stone. The grain she pours into it was harvested months ago and stored carefully inside large clay containers. She begins the familiar work. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The upper stone grows warm beneath her hands. Tiny pieces of grain become fine flour. The movement is steady enough that her thoughts can wander without interrupting her work. Perhaps she thinks about her children. Perhaps she quietly plans the day's meals. Perhaps she thinks about nothing at all, allowing the peaceful rhythm to fill her mind. This task has been repeated so often that it almost becomes a form of quiet meditation. Nearby, her youngest daughter watches. She is still too small to help very much, but she observes every movement. She notices how much grain is added. How firmly the stone is held. How patiently the flour is gathered. Without realizing it, she is already beginning her education. Ancient Egypt teaches through watching. Children learn by standing close. Knowledge moves gently from one generation to the next without classrooms or written lessons for most families. A little farther down the narrow street, smoke begins rising from another roof. An older woman is baking bread. She shapes each loaf with calm confidence. Her fingers move almost without thought. Years of practice have removed every unnecessary motion. She understands the dough by touch alone. If it is too dry, she knows. If it needs more water, she knows. If the oven is too hot, she knows before placing the bread inside. Experience has become part of her hands. The smell of fresh bread slowly drifts through the waking village. It mixes with the scent of warm earth and burning wood. Children notice it immediately. One little boy peeks around a doorway, hoping breakfast will be ready soon. His mother smiles softly but continues working. She has followed this same morning routine nearly every day since before he was born. Soon he will understand why every step takes time. Nothing good comes from rushing bread. The village becomes busier as the morning grows brighter. Doors open. Neighbors greet one another with familiar voices. Goats wander between houses. A few chickens scratch the dusty ground, searching for insects hidden beneath loose soil. A merchant arranges woven baskets outside his home. He sells onions, garlic, lentils, and dried herbs gathered from nearby fields. His customers already know him. There is little need to announce his goods loudly. People understand where to find what they need. The village itself has become a map stored inside every memory. Paths are followed almost without thinking. Each family knows which well offers the coolest water. Which neighbor makes the strongest rope? Which potter shapes the smoothest jars? This quiet understanding has grown over many years. Trust develops slowly. Once established, it remains strong. As sunlight reaches higher into the sky, workers begin leaving for larger projects beyond the village. Among them are stonecutters. They walk together carrying simple tools across their shoulders. Copper chisels. Wooden mallets. Stone hammers. Ropes. Water jars. Their conversation is gentle. No one wastes energy speaking loudly before the long hours ahead. Dust rises beneath their sandals as they follow a familiar road. The path itself seems worn by generations of footsteps. Many fathers once walked here. Many sons now follow. The quarry waits patiently beyond the village. It is not a place of dramatic noise. Instead, it is filled with steady sounds repeated throughout the day. Tap. 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 Stone answers each careful strike. Workers pause often to study the surface before continuing. Breaking stone requires understanding rather than force alone. A careless blow may ruin many hours of work. Patience is always rewarded. Nearby, another group shapes finished blocks. Edges are smoothed. Measurements checked. Rough surfaces become straight and clean. Each worker contributes one small part to a much larger effort. Few of them will ever see the completed buildings where these stones eventually rest. Yet they continue their work with quiet dedication. Large achievements in Egypt often grew from countless ordinary days. No single day seemed extraordinary. Instead, greatness slowly appeared through years of repeated labor. By late morning, the sun grows stronger. Heat settles across open ground. Workers wipe sweat from their faces. Their linen clothing darkens with moisture before drying almost immediately beneath the desert air. Water becomes precious. Clay jars are passed carefully between tired hands. Nobody drinks carelessly. Every drop matters. One younger worker glances toward the horizon. The distant shimmer above the sand makes the world appear almost liquid. He smiles faintly. He has seen this illusion since childhood. The desert enjoys playing gentle tricks with light. Not far away, farmers guide simple wooden plows through soft soil. Oxen pull steadily. The pace remains slow. No one expects the animals to hurry. Fields reward careful work rather than fast work. A farmer bends to examine tiny green shoots pushing through dark earth. The Nile's rich soil has once again done what it has done for thousands of years. Life quietly emerges. He brushes loose dirt from one small plant with surprising tenderness. Its future matters. That tiny shoot may become bread for a family months from now. It may feed children. It may become seed for another season. Simple moments often carry unseen importance. The farmer straightens his back slowly. It aches. Years of bending have left their mark. Many older Egyptians carry themselves carefully. Their bodies remember every basket lifted, every canal cleaned, every stone moved beneath the hot sun. Life is beautiful, but it is rarely easy. The people know this. They do not complain often. Hard work feels as natural as breathing. Near one irrigation canal, several workers remove small clumps of mud. Water must continue flowing freely. If the canals become blocked, fields farther away may receive too little water. Every village understands that shared effort protects everyone. Each person contributes according to strength and ability. The work is repetitive. Scoop. Lift. Carry. Return. Scoop again. Hour after hour. Yet there is something peaceful about repetition when everyone shares the burden together. The canal slowly becomes clear. Water begins moving more freely. Small ripples sparkle beneath the afternoon light. The workers pause for only a moment to watch it. Perhaps that quiet satisfaction is enough. No celebration is needed. The water itself is proof that their labor has meaning. Farther along the river, children gather reeds. Some help their parents. Others simply play while pretending to work. They weave imaginary boats. They chase dragonflies dancing above the water. Their laughter rises briefly before fading into the warm breeze. Even childhood follows familiar rhythms. Young lives are gently shaped by watching adults. Games often imitate real work. A little girl carries a tiny basket made for her by her grandfather. She proudly fills it with smooth stones. They are far too small to be useful, but she smiles as though carrying an important harvest. One day, her baskets will hold grain instead. For now, she enjoys pretending. An elderly grandfather watches from beneath the shade of a sycamore fig tree. His hair has turned white. His face carries deep lines carved by decades beneath the Egyptian sun. He no longer works as quickly as before. Younger relatives now perform many of the heavier tasks. Yet his value has not faded. Children sit beside him in the evenings. They ask quiet questions. He remembers old flood seasons. Years when the harvest was especially generous. Years when the river rose a little less than expected. His memories stretch farther back than anyone else's. He has become a living record of the village. His stories are not dramatic. They are gentle. He remembers where a family once rebuilt their home after heavy rain softened its walls. He remembers planting palm trees that now cast broad shade across the village square. He remembers holding his first child beneath these same stars. The younger people listen patiently. Time moves differently here. Old age is not pushed aside. It simply settles gently into the rhythm of community life. As the afternoon begins to soften once again, The light changes. Golden colors replace the harsh brightness of midday. Long shadows slowly return across dusty roads. Birds circle above the river before finding places to rest. The day's hardest work is nearly finished. Shoulders relax. Tools are gathered. Boats drift back toward shore. Fields become quieter. Families begin preparing for another evening together. The same peaceful cycle that greeted the dawn now gently carries everyone toward night once more, almost exactly as it has for countless days before, with the comforting certainty that tomorrow will unfold in much the same quiet and familiar way. The evening settles over the land with the quiet confidence of something that has happened countless times before. The heat slowly leaves the stones beneath tired feet. The bright edges of the day become softer. Dust floating through the warm air glows for a few moments in the low sunlight before gently disappearing into the coming twilight. Across the fields, workers begin the familiar walk home. No signal tells them the day is ending. No loud bell echoes across the villages. The light itself gives the answer. The lowering sun has always been enough. A farmer lifts a wooden hoe onto his shoulder. Its smooth handle has been shaped by years of use. His hand naturally settles into the same place every evening. The wood almost seems to remember him. He walks beside two neighbors. They speak quietly. Their conversation is simple. Someone wonders whether the irrigation channel carried enough water today. Another mentions that a date palm may soon be ready for harvesting. A third smiles as he remembers his youngest child trying to help with work that morning. Their words drift slowly through the cooling air. Nothing urgent waits for them. The day's work is finished. Tomorrow will bring another chance to continue. Behind them, the fields remain peaceful. The dark soil still holds the moisture left behind by careful irrigation. Small birds hop between rows of young plants searching for insects. A light breeze brushes through the grain, creating gentle waves that move almost like the surface of the Nile itself. Nature seems unhurried. The people who live beside it have learned the same rhythm. Closer to the river, fishermen pull their boats onto the muddy bank. Their catch has been modest. Perhaps it is enough for their families. Perhaps a few fish can be traded in the market tomorrow. No one expected every day to bring abundance. Some days were generous. Others were quieter. Both belonged naturally to life. One fisherman kneels beside his net. The fading sunlight reveals another small tear. Without disappointment, he begins repairing it. His fingers move carefully through the familiar pattern of knots. He has done this hundreds of times. Perhaps thousands. The work asks for patience rather than strength. Nearby, his oldest son watches closely. The boy has started making his own repairs. His knots are still uneven. His father notices but says little. He gently adjusts one loop before handing the net back. Learning comes through doing. Mistakes are expected. Tomorrow there will be another chance to practice. As darkness slowly approaches, smoke begins rising from many rooftops. Cooking fires come alive across the village. Their soft scent mixes with warm earth and fresh bread. Families prepare the evening meal. Inside one modest home, a mother pours freshly ground flour into a clay bowl. She adds water slowly. Her hands press the mixture together with quiet confidence. The dough becomes smooth beneath her palms. A small child sits beside her watching every movement. He reaches toward the bowl with curious fingers. She smiles softly and allows him to touch the flour. A tiny white mark appears across the tip of his nose. He laughs. She quietly brushes it away. It is a small moment. No one beyond these walls will remember it. Yet ancient life is built from countless moments exactly like this. Not every memory belongs to kings. Most memories belong to ordinary families sharing simple evenings. Nearby, an older daughter carefully tends the fire. She places dried reeds beneath the clay oven. Small flames grow stronger. Soon the warmth inside will bake another round of bread. She has watched her mother prepare these meals since she was very young. Without noticing, she has memorized each step. How much water? How long to wait? How hot the oven should feel? The knowledge has entered her life quietly, one ordinary evening after another. Outside, children still play while a little daylight remains. Their toys are simple. Some roll small stones across the ground. Others race beside the houses. A few build tiny villages from damp mud, shaping little walls with careful fingers. They copy the world around them. The homes they build resemble the ones where they sleep. The tiny paths resemble the ones their parents walk each morning. Even play reflects the familiar rhythm of daily life. An old dog lies beneath the shade of a wall. He barely opens one eye as the children pass. He has watched several generations grow up in this village. He recognizes every family by scent long before seeing them. Like everyone else here, he knows the routines. Nothing surprises him anymore. The market grows quieter. Merchants carefully gather the goods that remain unsold. Baskets are stacked neatly. Clay jars are covered with woven lids. Bundles of herbs are tied together for tomorrow. One merchant counts small measures of grain with patient hands. His records exist only in memory. He knows which family still owes him onions. He remembers who traded fish last week. Trust fills many exchanges. People have known each other for years. Sometimes for their entire lives. Business moves gently because relationships move gently. The village itself feels almost like one extended family. As evening deepens, a group of builders returns from distant work. Dust covers their legs nearly to the knees. Their shoulders ache from lifting heavy stone throughout the day. One younger man stretches his back slowly before entering his home. His muscles protest every movement. His father notices immediately. Without many words, he places a cool clay cup of water into his son's hands. The younger man drinks slowly. The water tastes slightly earthy from the clay vessel. It is refreshing after a long day beneath the sun. His mother sets bread before him. There is onion. A handful of beans. Some dried fish. The meal is modest. Yet after many hours of labor, it feels satisfying. The family eats together. Conversation is quiet. No one feels the need to fill every silence. Sometimes tired people simply enjoy being close to one another. Outside, the first stars begin appearing overhead. One by one they emerge across the darkening sky. The evening air finally feels comfortable again. Children point upward. Some try to count the brightest stars before losing track. An elderly grandmother watches them with gentle eyes. She remembers doing exactly the same thing when she was their age. The stars have not changed. Neither have many of the stories told beneath them. Families have repeated the same tales for generations. Stories about wise animals. Stories about the gods. Stories explaining the river, the seasons, and the sky. Each storyteller adds a slightly different voice, yet the heart of every tale remains familiar. This, too, helps explain why Egyptian life changes so slowly. Knowledge is treasured. Tradition is respected. Old ways are not easily forgotten. Inside another home, a scribe sits beside a small oil lamp. Unlike many workers, his hands carry fewer calluses. Yet they are tired in another way. He has spent the day writing records for a local official. His eyes feel strained from reading tiny signs upon rolls of papyrus. Before sleeping, he carefully cleans his reed pen. He trims its tip with a small knife. He wraps it inside cloth to protect it. Even writing tools deserve care. Tomorrow they will be needed again. He unrolls one unfinished sheet. Only for a moment. The lamplight dances gently across its surface. He studies the neat columns of symbols. They record grain stores from nearby villages. Simple information. Important information. Without these careful records, supplies become difficult to manage. His work may seem repetitive. Yet repetition creates order. Order allows villages to function smoothly. The scribe understands this. He quietly rolls the papyrus closed once more. The lamp flickers. The room grows peaceful. Not far away, temple servants prepare for another night. The great stone walls hold the day's warmth. Tall columns disappear into darkness above. Oil lamps cast soft golden circles upon carved reliefs. The air smells faintly of incense. Footsteps echo gently through long halls. One servant sweeps fine dust from the smooth floor. Another refills small lamps with fresh oil. The tasks are nearly identical to yesterday's. They will likely be identical tomorrow. Sacred places depend upon careful routine. The rituals themselves have been performed for generations. Each movement has meaning. Each offering follows ancient custom. People believe that maintaining these traditions helps preserve harmony between the human world and the divine. Even the smallest ceremony matters because it connects today with countless yesterdays. Outside the temple, night settles fully across the landscape. The village grows quieter. Doors close. Cooking fires slowly become glowing embers. Parents guide sleepy children onto woven sleeping mats. A mother gently smooths a linen cloth across her daughter's shoulders. The little girl is asleep before the stars reach their highest place in the sky. Her day has been full. Tomorrow will resemble it closely. She does not yet know that people thousands of years in the future will wonder what life in ancient Egypt was really like. If she could answer them, perhaps she would not speak about pyramids. Perhaps she would remember the smell of fresh bread at sunrise. The warmth of her mother's hands. The rough feel of woven baskets. The cool relief of river water on hot afternoons. The sound of sandals brushing dusty roads. The quiet songs sung while grinding grain. The soft breathing of her family after darkness filled the room. History often remembers great monuments. The people living beside them remembered ordinary days. Far beyond the village, the Nile continues its patient journey beneath the moon. Its surface reflects thousands of tiny stars. The current never hurries. It slips silently between fields, reeds, fishing boats, and sleeping settlements. For countless generations, this river has carried water, rich soil, boats, stories, hopes, and memories. It has also carried time itself. Every flood season reminds the people that life moves forward, yet somehow remains comfortingly familiar. An elderly farmer steps quietly outside his home before sleeping. He looks toward the river one last time. The breeze feels cooler now. He breathes deeply. Tomorrow there will be fields to tend. Canals to inspect. Tools to sharpen. Seeds to watch. Animals to feed. The work is never truly finished. Yet neither is it overwhelming. It simply returns, one gentle day after another, like the faithful waters of the Nile. He smiles almost without realizing it. Not because tomorrow will be different, but because tomorrow will be wonderfully familiar. He returns inside. The wooden door closes softly behind him. The village settles into complete silence. Only insects sing beneath the reeds. Only the river whispers through the darkness. Only the stars continue their slow journey overhead, watching another peaceful Egyptian night pass almost exactly as thousands before it have done, wrapping every humble home, every quiet workshop, every resting fisherman, every sleeping child, and every tired laborer in the same gentle stillness that has comforted this ancient land for countless generations. The deepest hours of the night settle gently across the valley. The village has become almost completely silent. Only the smallest sounds remain awake. A breeze slips between the narrow lanes, brushing softly against mud brick walls that still hold a little warmth from the long day. Palm leaves rustle high above the rooftops. Somewhere along the riverbank, reeds bend with the slow movement of the Nile. A tiny insect hums for a few moments before the sound fades back into the darkness. Most families are asleep now. Inside their homes, oil lamps have burned low. The rooms are simple. A woven mat rests upon the floor. Clay jars stand quietly beside the wall. A wooden chest holds folded linen clothing. Baskets filled with grain wait patiently for another morning. Nothing inside these homes is meant to impress anyone. Everything has a purpose. Everything has earned its place through daily use. A young mother sleeps beside her smallest child. The little boy shifts slightly in his dreams. His breathing is slow and peaceful. His tiny hand rests against the linen cloth covering them both. Tomorrow he will wake before sunrise. He does not know exactly what tomorrow will bring. Yet without realizing it, he already knows almost everything about the rhythm of the day. There will be bread. There will be work. There will be warm sunlight. There will be laughter somewhere between the houses. There will be the smell of fresh clay after water touches the earth. There will be evening. There will be stars. His world is wonderfully predictable. For many Egyptians, this predictability feels like a quiet blessing. Far from the village, the river continues moving beneath the moon. Its surface reflects pale silver light. The current never grows tired. It never pauses. It does not wonder where it should go. It simply follows the path that has shaped Egypt since long before anyone alive can remember. The people have learned something important from the river. Life does not need to be fast to be meaningful. A steady current can travel farther than rushing water. That same lesson appears throughout the villages beside the Nile. Generations come and go. Homes are repaired. Fields are planted. Children grow older. Grandparents pass their knowledge forward. The rhythm continues. Long before dawn, while the stars are still bright overhead, one elderly baker quietly opens his eyes. His body no longer sleeps as deeply as it once did. Age has changed many things. His hair has become thin and white. His shoulders no longer feel as strong. His hands carry deep lines and tiny scars from decades spent shaping dough beside warm ovens. Yet one thing has not changed. He still wakes before almost everyone else. He sits quietly for a few moments. The room is peaceful. He listens to the silence. It is a familiar silence. He has heard it nearly every morning for more than 50 years. Slowly, he stands. His knees complain gently. He smiles to himself. Old age often arrives one careful step at a time. He reaches for a clay jar. The water inside feels cool against his fingers. Outside, the village still sleeps. The stars remain overhead. The baker begins gathering dry reeds and small pieces of wood. Soon his oven will need heat. He kneels beside the clay structure he built many years ago with his own hands. The surface has been repaired countless times. Small cracks have appeared and disappeared beneath fresh layers of mud. Like its owner, the oven has grown old without becoming useless. He arranges the fuel carefully. A tiny spark appears. Soon a gentle fire begins to glow. The warmth slowly spreads through the clay walls. There is no hurry. Good bread asks for patience. As the fire grows stronger, he mixes flour with water. His hands know exactly how the dough should feel. They have repeated this movement so many times that they almost seem to think for themselves. Press. Fold. Turn. Press again. The rhythm is calm. Almost musical. Nearby, another baker begins exactly the same work. Then another. Across Egypt, countless hands move in quiet harmony before sunrise. Without planning it, thousands of families begin another ordinary day together. As the eastern horizon slowly brightens, birds awaken among the reeds. Their songs drift gently across the water. The first fishermen step outside. One pauses for a moment to look toward the sky. The stars are fading. Soon the sun will replace them. He enjoys these few quiet moments before the village becomes busy. The cool morning air feels refreshing against his face. By midday, it will be gone. He knows this. Everyone does. Morning is a gift to those willing to wake early. He walks toward his boat. The same narrow path curves beside familiar houses. His feet know every uneven stone. He could almost follow the road with closed eyes. That is how little the village has changed. Many of these homes stood here when he was a child. Some belong to families who have lived beside his own for generations. One wall was repaired after heavy rain many years ago. Another doorway was widened when a family grew larger. Small changes happen. Life itself continues. At the riverbank, he unties the rope holding his boat. The fibers feel rough against his palms. He checks each knot without thinking. A loose knot can become a serious problem upon the water. Routine keeps mistakes away. He pushes the boat gently into the river. It rocks once before settling into calm balance. A paddle slips beneath the surface. Tiny ripples spread outward. The river accepts him once more. Back in the village, smoke begins rising from several ovens. The smell of baking bread slowly fills the cool morning air. Doors begin opening. Children rub sleepy eyes. A young girl carries an empty clay jar toward the village well. She walks beside her older sister. The jar feels heavy even while empty. When filled with water, it will require both hands. The older sister smiles. She remembers struggling with her own first water jar years ago. Now carrying it feels completely natural. Skills become easier through quiet repetition. Nobody expects perfection on the first day. Ancient Egypt has time. Time for children to learn. Time for workers to improve. Time for villages to grow. Nothing needs to happen quickly. At the well, several women have already gathered. Their voices remain soft. Someone asks about an elderly neighbor who has not been feeling strong. Another speaks about repairing a damaged roof before the next flood season. One woman laughs quietly as she tells a story about her youngest son falling asleep beside a basket of onions after helping in the market. The others smile. It is not loud laughter. Just warm recognition. Life is full of small moments that everyone understands. Water rises carefully from the well. Clay jars are filled one after another. Each woman balances her jar with practiced grace. Some carry the weight upon their heads. Others rest it against one shoulder. The walk home feels ordinary. The paths are familiar. The task has been repeated nearly every day of their lives. Nearby, a potter has already begun his morning. His workshop is cool before the sun grows stronger. Several unfinished bowls wait upon wooden shelves. Yesterday they were soft clay. Today they have become firmer. Soon they will be ready for the kiln. The potter sits before his wheel. His foot begins turning it slowly. Round and round. The clay follows the movement. His wet hands gently guide the shape upward. A bowl slowly appears. Then another. Then another. Each one resembles the last. Not because he lacks imagination, but because families need bowls that work well. Beauty exists inside usefulness. A smooth rim. A balanced base. Walls that are neither too thick nor too thin. His customers appreciate dependable craftsmanship. The potter understands this better than anyone. His father shaped clay before him. His grandfather did the same. Perhaps his own daughter or son will continue after him. The workshop smells pleasantly of damp earth. Fresh clay carries the scent of the river itself. The potter enjoys the smell. It reminds him of every season he has spent working. It reminds him that nearly everything around him comes from the land. The mud that forms his pottery. The water that softens it. The reeds that help fuel the kiln. The river quietly provides almost everything. Farther away, in the open fields, farmers arrive just as the first sunlight touches the crops. Golden light spreads across the rich black soil left behind by the Nile's floods. The earth still feels cool beneath their bare feet. One farmer kneels to examine young barley. Tiny drops of morning moisture cling to each blade. He gently brushes one leaf between his fingers. The plant appears healthy. He nods with quiet satisfaction. No celebration follows. Healthy crops are simply one more blessing within the steady rhythm of life. Nearby, another farmer leads 2 oxen toward a field that still waits to be plowed. The animals move patiently. Their breathing is slow. The wooden yoke rests comfortably across their broad shoulders. The farmer speaks only a few soft words. The oxen already know the work. They have walked these fields many times before. The soil opens behind the plow in long, straight lines. Fresh earth rises gently. Birds quickly gather behind them, searching for insects newly uncovered. The scene has repeated itself across this valley for centuries. Season after season. Generation after generation. The sun climbs a little higher. Warmth begins spreading across the land. Morning slowly gives way to another familiar day. The baker removes fresh loaves from his oven. The fisherman checks his first nets. The potter shapes another vessel. The women return with cool water. Children begin helping with simple chores before drifting toward their games. The elderly settle into shaded places where they can watch the village awaken. No single moment announces itself as important. Yet together these quiet routines form the heartbeat of Egypt. A heartbeat that changes so slowly that many people living within it hardly notice the passing years. And as another peaceful morning unfolds beside the faithful Nile, the land gently continues its ancient rhythm, carrying every ordinary worker, every careful craftsperson, every loving parent, every curious child, and every weathered elder through another calm day that feels comfortingly familiar, just as yesterday did, and just as tomorrow almost certainly will. Morning settles fully across the valley, not with sudden brightness, but with a slow unfolding of light that touches every familiar corner of the land. The rooftops of mud brick homes begin to glow with warm shades of gold. Palm trees cast long, gentle shadows that stretch across narrow paths before slowly growing shorter as the sun climbs higher. The cool air of dawn quietly slips away, replaced by the first hints of the day's warmth. Nothing about this morning feels unusual. That is exactly what makes it beautiful. For most people living in ancient Egypt, an ordinary day was a welcome day. A morning that arrived just as expected allowed life to continue peacefully. The river still flowed. The fields still waited. Bread still baked. Families still gathered. These simple signs told everyone that the world remained balanced. A young servant opens the wooden door of a large household before the first visitors arrive. She sweeps the entrance with a bundle of reeds tied tightly together. Dust moves gently across the stone floor before settling outside. She has swept this same doorway hundreds of times. She notices tiny changes that few others would ever see. A small crack has appeared beside one wall. The wooden threshold has become smoother where countless sandals have passed over it. The woven mat near the entrance has begun to wear thin around its edges. Everything grows older together. The servant quietly makes a note in her memory to repair the mat when she has time. Inside the house, another servant pours cool water into clay basins. The water catches the morning light, shining softly for a moment before becoming still again. Simple routines like these begin every day. There is comfort in preparing a place before the household awakens. Nearby, a cook checks the bread baked before sunrise. The loaves have cooled enough to handle. She gently taps the bottom of one loaf with her knuckles. The sound tells her what she needs to know. Years of experience have taught her to listen as much as to look. She slices fresh bread carefully. Some will be eaten this morning. The rest will be saved for later in the day. Very little food is allowed to go to waste. Each harvest requires too much work for carelessness. Outside, the streets become busier. Children carry small baskets. Men lift tools onto their shoulders. Women walk toward gardens and wells. The village wakes gradually, almost like someone opening their eyes after a peaceful night's sleep. No one seems to hurry. There is no race against the morning. Everyone understands that the day is long. The work will be finished one careful task at a time. Along the riverbank, a narrow ferry begins carrying people across the Nile. The boatman stands quietly at the rear of the vessel. His long pole presses gently against the riverbed. The current helps with part of the journey. The river itself shares the work. Passengers remain mostly silent. Some hold baskets of vegetables. Others carry bundles of flax. One elderly woman carefully balances a small cage containing several ducks. The birds make soft sounds as the boat glides through the water. No one appears impatient. The crossing has always taken this long. The river decides the pace. Halfway across, the passengers pause to admire the morning without speaking. Mist still lingers over distant reeds. White birds lift gracefully into the sky before disappearing toward quiet marshes. The sunlight dances upon gentle waves. For a few peaceful moments, no one thinks about the labor waiting on the opposite shore. There is only the sound of water touching wood. The boat reaches the far bank. Each passenger thanks the boatman with a nod before continuing along familiar paths. Nearby, a small group of scribes arrives at a government storehouse. The building is cool inside. Its thick walls keep out much of the growing heat. Large jars filled with grain stand neatly arranged in long rows. Each jar represents months of careful farming. Each measure must be recorded accurately. One young scribe carefully unrolls a sheet of papyrus. He prepares fresh ink. The black pigment has been mixed with water until it flows smoothly from his reed pen. His handwriting is careful, steady, patient. He copies numbers exactly as they are spoken. There is no room for guessing. Grain feeds villages. Mistakes could leave families hungry. Yet even this important responsibility soon settles into familiar repetition. Write. Pause. Count. Write again. The steady rhythm calms the mind. His teacher once told him that neat writing reflects a calm heart. He has never forgotten those words. Across the courtyard, workers carry sacks of grain into storage. The bags are heavy. 2 men lift each one together. They move carefully across smooth stone floors. One worker pauses for a moment to straighten his back. Another offers him a drink of water. Neither speaks much. They understand each other's tiredness without explanation. Years of shared labor create quiet friendship. Beyond the storehouse, a merchant slowly prepares for a journey to another village. His donkey waits patiently beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. Bundles of linen cloth are tied securely across its back. Small jars of oil are wrapped carefully inside woven baskets. Nothing must break along the road. Before leaving, the merchant checks every knot twice. Roads can be uneven. A loose rope may cost an entire day's earnings. He strokes the donkey gently along its neck. The animal flicks one ear before beginning the journey. They walk at an easy pace. Dust rises softly beneath steady hooves. The road stretches ahead, winding beside canals and fields before disappearing into the distance. Travel in ancient Egypt is rarely fast. Merchants know this well. The journey itself becomes part of life rather than something to finish quickly. Along the road, they pass farmers already hard at work. One family gathers bundles of flax. The long green stems will eventually become linen. The work is slow. Each plant must be pulled carefully from the ground. The roots matter. Nothing is done roughly. The family works together. A grandmother ties neat bundles. A father carries them. 2 children arrange the growing piles beneath a tree. Even the youngest contributes by gathering loose stems left behind. No task is too small. Every helping hand has value. The grandmother hums quietly while she works. It is not a performance. It is simply a habit. A gentle melody passed down from her own mother. The tune has no beginning that anyone remembers. Perhaps it has traveled through the valley for generations. The children hear it so often that they hardly notice. Years from now, they may hum the same melody without realizing where they first learned it. The music becomes another thread connecting one generation to the next. Farther away, near a cluster of workshops, the sound of weaving fills the air. Wooden looms creak softly. Threads stretch tightly between smooth beams. A weaver guides them with careful fingers. Back and forth. Back and forth. The cloth grows slowly. Each row joins the one before it. The pattern is simple. Strong. Dependable. The weaver does not count every movement anymore. Her hands understand the rhythm. She glances occasionally through the open doorway. Outside, sunlight brightens the dusty street. Neighbors pass carrying baskets. Children chase one another around a date palm before their mother gently calls them back. The world continues moving at its familiar pace. Inside another workshop, a carpenter smooths the edge of a wooden stool. Tiny curls of wood gather around his feet. The scent of fresh timber fills the room. His tools are few. A small saw. A chisel. A wooden mallet. A polishing stone. Each has been cared for over many years. When one tool grows dull, he sharpens it carefully. Replacing it would not be easy. He runs his hand across the finished surface. It feels smooth. The stool is not elaborate. It is made to serve a family for many years. That is enough. In Egypt, usefulness often lasts longer than fashion. By late morning, the warmth becomes stronger. The streets grow quieter as people settle into their work. Even the animals move more slowly. Goats gather beneath patches of shade. Dogs stretch comfortably against cool walls. Cats wander silently between storage jars, always hoping to discover a careless mouse. One orange cat curls beside a sleeping potter. The craftsman has paused for a short rest before returning to his wheel. The cat seems perfectly content with the slow rhythm of village life. It has watched these same routines every day. The familiar sounds have become as comforting as the afternoon sunshine. Near the river, several boys practice throwing small nets into shallow water. Their fathers watch from nearby boats. The nets splash unevenly. Sometimes they twist. Sometimes they sink too quickly. The boys laugh quietly before trying again. One father offers gentle advice. Relax your shoulders. The next throw is better. Learning takes patience. No one expects skill to arrive all at once. The Nile has time. So do the people who live beside it. As the sun continues its slow climb across the clear Egyptian sky, another ordinary day unfolds with the same quiet certainty that has guided this land for centuries. Every loaf of bread, every woven basket, every repaired fishing net, every measured sack of grain, every gentle conversation beside the well, and every careful step along the dusty roads adds another small thread to the great fabric of Egyptian life, a life that changes so slowly because it is woven from habits, trust, shared work, and the comforting belief that tomorrow's sunrise will greet the valley just as faithfully as today's. By the time the sun stands high above the valley, the coolness of morning has become only a memory. The air grows heavier. Heat settles over the fields, the workshops, the narrow streets, and the quiet villages that stretch along the banks of the Nile. Light reflects from pale stone walls until everything seems wrapped in a gentle golden glow. Even the wind has changed. Before sunrise it carried the cool scent of river water. Now it arrives warm, lifting tiny clouds of dust from well-worn paths before letting them drift slowly back to the ground. The people do not seem surprised. This is simply the middle of another Egyptian day. They have known this heat since childhood. An older farmer pauses beside an irrigation canal. He removes a linen cloth from around his neck and wipes the sweat from his forehead. His hands are stained with dark earth. His feet are covered with fine dust that clings to his sandals. He takes a slow drink from a clay water jar resting beneath the shade of a tamarisk tree. The water is pleasantly cool. The thick clay has protected it from the strongest warmth of the day. He drinks carefully. Not too quickly. There will be more work before evening arrives. The jar is passed to another worker. No one asks for it. The movement happens naturally. Everyone understands. The canal belongs to all of them. The water belongs to all of them. The harvest will belong to everyone who helped bring it to life. Shared work quietly creates shared trust. Nearby, the canal flows gently between its earthen banks. The water glimmers beneath the sunlight. Small fish dart through the shadows. Dragonflies skim across the surface, their delicate wings catching flashes of light before disappearing among the reeds. One young boy kneels beside the canal. He has been asked to remove small branches carried there by the current. The task is simple. Reach down. Lift the branch. Place it beside the bank. Wait for another. At first he wonders why such a small job matters. Then his grandfather kneels beside him. The old man smiles. He points farther down the canal where the water continues toward the fields. If this place stays clear, he says softly, the water keeps moving. The boy watches the gentle current. He begins to understand. Sometimes the smallest work protects the largest harvest. He returns to his task with quiet pride. The grandfather rises slowly. His back bends a little more than it once did. Years of lifting baskets and digging canals have changed the shape of his body. His hands no longer close as tightly around heavy tools. Yet his eyes notice things younger workers sometimes miss. Experience has become his greatest strength. Across the fields, women gather vegetables from small garden plots. Green onions rise from dark soil. Lettuce grows in neat rows. Beans climb simple wooden supports. The work is careful. Each plant is handled gently. A careless pull might damage tomorrow's harvest. One woman brushes loose soil from a freshly picked onion before placing it into her basket. Her daughter copies every movement. The girl's basket is much smaller. She carries only a few vegetables. Still, she walks proudly beside her mother. Helping, even in small ways, makes her feel older. The mother smiles without saying anything. She remembers carrying a tiny basket of her own many years ago. Some memories return through ordinary work rather than special occasions. The harvest basket grows heavier. The little girl's steps become slower. Without a word, her older brother quietly lifts the basket onto his own shoulder. She thanks him with a smile. Then she begins gathering more onions. No one keeps score of these small kindnesses. They simply become part of village life. Farther along the river, the sound of weaving continues inside a shaded workshop. The thick walls keep the room cooler than the bright streets outside. Several women sit before large wooden looms. The threads stretch tightly from one beam to another. Hands move with steady confidence. Back and forth. Lift. Pull. Press. The rhythm never changes very much. The quiet tapping of the loom almost resembles gentle rain, though rain itself is rare in this land. A young apprentice watches carefully. She has only recently begun learning the craft. Sometimes her threads become uneven. Sometimes she forgets which group should be lifted first. The older weaver beside her does not become impatient. She simply untangles the mistake. Then she demonstrates the movement once more. The apprentice tries again. This time her hands move more smoothly. Learning in ancient Egypt often happens this way. Patiently. Slowly. Without embarrassment. Every skilled craftsperson was once a beginner. In another corner of the village, a potter opens his kiln. Warm air escapes into the afternoon. The firing has finished. One by one, he removes newly hardened bowls. He examines each one carefully. Most have survived perfectly. One small cup has cracked near its base. He turns it over in his hands. For a moment he studies the thin line running through the clay. Then he places it aside. Not with anger. Not with disappointment. Simply with acceptance. Clay sometimes behaves in unexpected ways. Tomorrow another cup will take its place. The broken piece will not be wasted. Fragments often become useful in other tasks. Very little is ever thrown away. Outside the workshop, a donkey stands beneath the shade of a palm tree. Its ears flick lazily whenever flies become too curious. Bundles of reeds rest beside it. The animal has already carried heavy loads since sunrise. For now it enjoys a quiet rest. Its breathing is slow. Its eyes are half closed. Even working animals follow the same gentle rhythm as the people around them. Labor. Rest. Labor again. Everything follows the movement of the sun. As the afternoon grows warmer, many workers seek whatever shade they can find. Some sit beneath trees. Others rest beside walls where the shadows have become slightly longer. A group of stone workers gathers beneath a simple shelter built from wooden poles and woven reeds. Their meal is modest. Fresh bread. A handful of dates. Some onions. A small piece of salted fish. One worker tears a loaf into equal pieces. No one reaches first. Food is shared without discussion. The bread is still soft from the morning's baking. Its familiar smell brings quiet comfort after hours beneath the sun. One younger worker asks an older mason how long he has been shaping stone. The older man thinks for a moment. "So long," he says gently, "that I no longer remember my first day." The others smile. Not because the answer is funny. Because they understand exactly what he means. Years blend together when each season resembles the one before. The older mason runs his hand across a smooth block of limestone resting nearby. "I have shaped many stones," he continues softly. "But every stone teaches patience." The younger worker nods. He looks at his own hands. Blisters cover his palms. Perhaps one day his hands will become as steady as the older man's. There is no need to hurry. Skill grows quietly, just as children do. Nearby, a group of scribes sits inside the cool shade of a columned building. Outside, the sunlight is almost blinding. Inside, only narrow beams of light reach the floor. Dust floats lazily through them. One scribe pauses to stretch his fingers. Hours of writing have left them stiff. He gently rolls his shoulders before returning to his work. His ink has begun to dry. He adds another drop of water and stirs it carefully. Then the reed pen glides across the papyrus once more. Symbols appear one after another. Neat. Balanced. Orderly. The records he creates may one day help settle questions about harvests, taxes, or stored grain. He knows his work matters. Yet it rarely feels exciting. Most useful work in Egypt is quiet. Its importance grows slowly over time. Outside the building, two boys carry fresh rolls of papyrus from another workshop. They hold them carefully beneath linen cloth to protect them from dust. The older boy reminds the younger one not to squeeze them too tightly. The younger nods seriously. He wants to do the job well. Simple responsibilities often become moments of pride. Along another dusty road, an elderly woman sits weaving baskets beneath the shade of an acacia tree. The reeds in her hands are slightly damp. They bend easily without breaking. Her fingers move with remarkable speed despite her age. Over. Under. Pull. Tighten. The basket slowly rises around itself. A little girl sits beside her, trying to weave a tiny basket no larger than both hands. Her reeds refuse to stay in place. She sighs quietly. The older woman reaches over. Without taking the basket away, she gently adjusts two loose strands. "Not too tight," she whispers. "The basket must breathe." The little girl tries again. This time the reeds settle into place. The grandmother nods with quiet approval. No grand lesson has been spoken. Yet one has been learned. Patience often succeeds where force does not. As the afternoon begins its slow journey toward evening, the harsh brightness softens almost too gradually to notice. The shadows beneath the palm trees stretch a little farther across the earth. Birdsong returns after the hottest hours have passed. The breeze carries the faint scent of wet mud from the riverbank, where children splash their feet in the cool shallows while nearby parents rinse baskets, wash clothing, and fill jars for the evening ahead. Another ordinary Egyptian day continues exactly as countless others have before it, each familiar task flowing gently into the next with the quiet certainty of the Nile itself, until work, rest, family, and the steady passage of time become almost impossible to separate, woven together into a peaceful rhythm that has changed so little that it feels as ancient and dependable as the river that gives this remarkable land its life. The afternoon begins its slow, quiet journey toward evening. The sun is still high, yet something in the light has changed. Its brightness is no longer climbing. Instead, it rests gently over the valley, warming the earth with a steady hand. The hottest hours are slowly passing. Across the fields, the sounds of labor continue, but at an easier pace. A farmer pauses beside a cluster of young wheat. He kneels carefully, letting one hand drift across the tops of the growing plants. The grain bends softly beneath his fingers. A warm breeze passes over the field, and for a few peaceful moments every stalk moves together, like gentle waves crossing the surface of the Nile. He watches quietly. There is satisfaction in seeing healthy crops. Not excitement. Not celebration. Simply quiet gratitude. These fields have fed his family for many years. Before him, they fed his parents. Long before that, they fed people whose names have slowly disappeared into history. The earth remembers them even if no one else does. He stands again with a slow stretch. His back feels stiff. His shoulders carry the weight of many seasons. He is not an old man yet, but years of bending over fields have left their gentle marks. In ancient Egypt, the body often tells the story of a person's work. A potter's hands become smooth with clay. A fisherman develops broad shoulders from rowing. A stonecutter grows strong arms from lifting heavy tools. A scribe's fingers become steady from years of careful writing. Each trade quietly shapes the people who practice it. Not far away, two young brothers gather bundles of harvested reeds near the riverbank. The older brother works quickly but carefully. The younger tries to match his pace. Several times the bundle slips from his arms and falls back onto the ground. Each time, he bends down, picks it up again, and keeps going. His brother notices. Instead of taking over, he waits. After a few more attempts, the younger boy finally finds a better way to balance the reeds across both shoulders. The load feels lighter. He smiles to himself. Sometimes the best lessons arrive through quiet persistence rather than spoken instruction. The brothers continue walking toward the village. Behind them, dragonflies dance above the water. White birds glide low across the reeds before settling near the edge of the river. The Nile continues its endless journey with the same calm voice it has carried for thousands of years. Its current never appears rushed. It never seems uncertain. Perhaps that is one reason the people who live beside it have learned to value steadiness more than speed. Near a cluster of date palms, several women spread freshly washed linen across smooth stones to dry beneath the afternoon sun. The cloth catches the light beautifully. A gentle breeze lifts the corners before letting them settle once again. One woman carefully folds another finished piece. Its surface feels warm from the sunlight. She smiles softly. Clean linen always carries a quiet feeling of comfort. Nearby, two small children chase each other between the hanging cloths. For a moment they disappear behind bright white fabric before emerging again with quiet laughter. Their grandmother watches from the shade. She pretends not to notice. The children believe they are hiding perfectly. She remembers playing exactly the same game many years ago. Some childhood joys remain unchanged across generations. The afternoon light continues softening. A shepherd guides a small flock of goats toward fresh grazing. The animals know the path almost as well as he does. They wander peacefully, stopping now and then to nibble at patches of green growing beside irrigation canals. The shepherd carries only a wooden staff and a small water jar. His work asks more for patience than strength. He spends many hours walking slowly beside the animals. Watching. Listening. Waiting. At first glance, someone might think his days are empty. Yet they are full of quiet observation. He notices which goat limps slightly. Which young kid stays close to its mother. Where fresh grass grows after the river floods. The land teaches careful attention to anyone willing to move slowly enough. In another part of the village, the smell of damp clay fills a narrow courtyard. A family has gathered to repair one wall of their home. Heavy winter rains are rare, but every year the walls need small repairs. The father mixes mud with chopped straw. The mother smooths the mixture onto the worn surface. Their oldest daughter follows behind with wet hands, carefully pressing away small cracks. Even the youngest child wants to help. He pats one tiny corner with such enthusiasm that everyone smiles. His work changes very little. Still, no one tells him to stop. One day these walls will become his responsibility too. The family works quietly together. The wall slowly becomes smooth once again. Fresh mud glows darker than the older bricks around it. Within a few days, the color will blend naturally. The repair will almost disappear. That is often how change happens in Egypt. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. One careful layer at a time. As the years pass, homes are repaired so often that they seem almost alive. Old bricks support new ones. Fresh plaster covers weathered surfaces. The house grows older while continuing to shelter another generation. Across the village square, an elderly basket maker sits beneath the wide branches of a sycamore fig tree. The afternoon shade protects him from the strongest sunlight. Around him lie bundles of papyrus reeds soaking in shallow water. When the reeds become soft enough, they bend without breaking. He selects one carefully. His fingers still move with remarkable precision despite his age. Twist. Fold. Tuck. Pull. Another basket slowly takes shape. A young apprentice sits beside him. The boy watches every movement. After several minutes, the old craftsman finally speaks. "Do you know why we never hurry?" The boy thinks for a moment before gently shaking his head. The old man smiles. "If your hands hurry," he says softly, "your eyes stop seeing." The boy looks down at the basket. He notices tiny details he had missed before. One reed bends more easily than another. One corner must be pulled tighter. One strand needs a little more space. The lesson is simple. Slow hands often create better work. The apprentice begins weaving again. This time he moves more gently. Nearby, a donkey carrying clay jars arrives from another village. The merchant leading it brushes dust from the animal's back before carefully unloading each jar. He taps every one with his knuckles. A clear sound. No cracks. Good. The potter who ordered them nods with satisfaction. They exchange a few quiet words. No written agreement is needed. They have traded together for many years. Trust has grown through countless ordinary meetings. Relationships, like good pottery, becomes stronger over time. Farther down the road, several fishermen return earlier than usual. The afternoon catch has been enough. One man carries a woven basket filled with silver fish that still glisten in the sunlight. His daughter runs to meet him. She peeks inside the basket with wide eyes. He lifts out one small fish and places it gently into her hands. She laughs quietly as it wiggles. Her mother soon wraps it in fresh reeds to keep it cool until supper. Simple moments like this become treasured family memories. No one writes them down. No one carves them into stone. Yet they fill the lives of ordinary people far more completely than the great events remembered by history. As the shadows grow longer, craftsmen begin putting away their tools. The carpenter carefully hangs his saw upon a wooden peg. The potter washes clay from his hands. The weaver rolls unfinished cloth to protect it from dust. The scribe places a smooth stone over his papyrus to keep it flat overnight. Each task ends with the same care that began it. Tools are not abandoned. They are prepared for tomorrow. Tomorrow is already part of today's thinking. A woman carrying a basket of fresh herbs pauses beside her neighbor's doorway. She offers a small handful of mint without expecting anything in return. The neighbor thanks her warmly. Perhaps tomorrow she will share a few ripe figs. Such quiet exchanges happen every day. No one calls them generosity. They are simply part of living together. The village grows richer through kindness that is almost too ordinary to notice. Children begin returning home one by one. Dust covers their feet. Their hair smells faintly of sunshine and river water. One little boy proudly carries a smooth stone he discovered beside the canal. To anyone else, it is only a stone. To him, it is a treasure. His grandfather examines it carefully before nodding with approval. "It will make a good game piece," he says. The boy smiles. The stone immediately becomes even more valuable. As the afternoon slowly melts into the first gentle colors of evening, the pace of the village becomes softer still. The sounds of hammers fade. The looms fall quiet. The fields empty little by little as farmers shoulder their tools and begin the familiar walk home. Above them, birds cross the glowing sky in graceful lines, returning to nests hidden among reeds and palm branches. The Nile reflects the changing light, turning from bright blue to soft gold, then to gentle shades of amber. The river has witnessed another ordinary day. Another day of bread baked before sunrise. Of nets repaired beside quiet water. Of baskets woven beneath cool shade. Of children learning from patient hands. Of families working side by side without hurry. And as the evening breeze begins to carry away the warmth of the day, ancient Egypt gently settles once more into its timeless rhythm, where every familiar task, every shared meal, every repaired wall, every growing child, and every peaceful sunset quietly reminds its people that life does not need constant change to be full, meaningful, and deeply comforting. The evening breeze arrives almost without notice. At first it is only the slightest movement in the reeds along the river. Then it slips quietly through the fields, carrying with it the scent of damp earth, fresh water, and the last warmth of the day. It passes over the canals, through the date palms, and between the narrow streets of the village, gently touching every doorway before continuing toward the wide desert beyond. The people welcome it. After many hours beneath the sun, even a small breeze feels like a kind companion. A farmer pauses as he reaches the edge of his field. He turns his face toward the wind and closes his eyes for just a moment. The cool air settles across his forehead. It carries away some of the day's heat. His shoulders relax. There is still work waiting at home, but for these few quiet breaths, he simply stands and listens. The wheat behind him sways softly. Water moves through the nearby canal with its steady whisper. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey lets out a slow, familiar call. The sounds belong to the valley as surely as the river itself. He begins the walk home. The path beneath his sandals is one he has followed almost every day of his life. Each bend is familiar. Each stone has been passed so many times that he rarely looks down anymore. His feet know the way. Ahead, other workers are returning from different directions. Some carry hoes across their shoulders. Others balance woven baskets filled with vegetables or bundles of flax. A fisherman walks beside them with an empty net folded neatly over one arm. His catch was enough for today. Tomorrow he will return to the river before dawn and try again. No one asks whether he grew tired of the same routine. The question would seem strange. The river changes a little each day. The sky changes. The light changes. The seasons slowly turn. Yet the rhythm remains. Within that rhythm, people discover endless small differences. One evening the breeze is cooler. Another evening the birds arrive a little earlier. One year the flood reaches slightly farther into the fields. Another year the harvest ripens a few days sooner. Life does not stand completely still. It simply moves with such patience that change almost whispers instead of speaking aloud. At the edge of the village, several children wait for their parents. The youngest has spent the afternoon collecting smooth pebbles beside the river. He proudly empties them into his father's hands. Each stone is carefully examined. This one is very round, his father says. And this one shines in the light. The boy beams with quiet pride. His treasures cost nothing. Still, they seem precious. His father slips one of the smoothest stones into the boy's small pouch. You may keep this one. The child nods happily. Years later, he may no longer remember the exact evening. But perhaps, somewhere deep within him, he will remember the feeling of standing beside his father as the warm breeze drifted across the Nile. Many memories begin as moments too ordinary to notice. The village slowly fills again. Doors remain open while daylight lingers. Neighbors greet one another with relaxed voices. Someone carries a bundle of fresh reeds toward a roof that needs repairing. Another family brings home baskets filled with onions and beans gathered from nearby gardens. The familiar sounds of home replace the sounds of work. Clay jars touch stone floors with gentle taps. Wooden doors creak softly on worn hinges. Children wash dusty feet before stepping inside. A woman pours cool water over her husband's hands before the evening meal. The water falls into a shallow basin with a pleasant sound. Dust disappears down his fingers. The day's labor slowly washes away. She hands him a clean linen cloth. He dries his hands carefully before helping prepare supper. These small acts of care happen so often that no one speaks about them. Yet they quietly hold families together. Across the village, smoke rises from dozens of clay ovens. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the streets once again. Mixed with it comes the scent of roasted onions, lentils simmering in clay pots, and herbs gathered earlier in the day. The air itself seems comforting. One elderly woman stirs a pot slowly over glowing coals. Her granddaughter watches from beside her. The child asks why the soup must cook so slowly. The old woman smiles. If the fire rushes, she says gently, the food forgets its flavor. The little girl looks thoughtfully into the pot. Tiny bubbles rise one after another. The meal continues cooking at its peaceful pace. The grandmother has learned that many good things cannot be hurried. Bread, crops, friendship, children. Even the evening itself arrives slowly. Not far away, a carpenter sits outside his workshop after putting away his tools. The day's work is finished. He rests on a simple wooden stool he built many years before. The wood has grown darker with age. The corners have become smooth beneath countless hands. He runs his fingers across the polished surface. The stool has served him faithfully for decades. Perhaps it will serve his son after him. He watches people passing through the street. A shepherd returns with his flock. Several merchants close their shutters. A potter carries newly fired bowls into storage. Everyone seems to move just a little more slowly than they did in the morning. The village is gently exhaling after another long day. Along the riverbank, fishermen finish cleaning their boats. One young man carefully coils a rope. His grandfather watches nearby. The old man notices one loose loop. Without criticism, he quietly points toward it. The young fisherman smiles. He untangles the rope and coils it again. Better, the grandfather says. The lesson lasts only a few seconds. Still, it is one more piece of knowledge quietly passed from one generation to another. That is how wisdom often travels in Egypt. Not through long speeches. Not through grand ceremonies. But through patient hands working side by side. As twilight deepens, birds gather among the reeds. Their songs become softer. Some disappear into nests hidden high in the palm trees. Others settle near the water's edge. The sky begins changing colors. Blue fades into gentle shades of amber. Amber slowly becomes rose. Then violet quietly spreads across the western horizon. The Nile reflects every color. Its surface seems almost made of light. A family pauses on the riverbank before returning home. The youngest daughter points toward the glowing water. It looks different every evening, she whispers. Her mother nods. Yes, she says. But it is still the same river. The child thinks about those words as they continue walking. She does not fully understand them yet. One day she will. Many things in life appear different from one day to the next. Yet beneath those small changes, something steady remains. Perhaps that is the secret the Nile has been teaching for thousands of years. The first evening stars begin appearing above the valley. One by one they shine through the fading light. The villagers notice them almost without thinking. These stars greeted their ancestors. They will greet their children. The same constellations slowly cross the sky each season, just as they always have. An elderly scribe steps outside after finishing his records for the day. He stretches his tired fingers. The papyrus has been rolled and stored safely. His ink has been covered to keep it fresh. Tomorrow he will continue exactly where he stopped. There is comfort in unfinished work when tomorrow is trusted to arrive. He looks toward the sky. The stars remind him that people are only a small part of something much larger. Generations pass. The river flows. The seasons return. The heavens continue their quiet journey overhead. He smiles gently before walking home. As darkness settles more deeply over the village, families gather for their evening meals. Voices remain soft. Oil lamps flicker behind open doorways. The glow spills onto the dusty streets in warm patches of golden light. Some children are already becoming sleepy. They lean against their parents while listening to gentle conversations they are too young to fully understand. A baby falls asleep in her mother's arms before supper is finished. Her tiny fingers remain wrapped around a fold of linen. No one hurries to wake her. The meal can wait. Peace has its own importance. The breeze grows cooler. The sounds of work have almost completely faded. Only quiet conversation, the distant murmur of the Nile, and the soft chorus of insects remain. Another ordinary Egyptian day is slowly folding itself into memory, leaving behind nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary, only the gentle satisfaction of work honestly done, meals quietly shared, children lovingly guided, and the comforting promise that when dawn returns over the faithful waters of the Nile, life will once again begin with the same peaceful rhythm that has carried this ancient land through countless generations. Night settles gently over the valley until the last traces of daylight quietly disappear beyond the western horizon. The sky above ancient Egypt becomes deep and clear. Thousands of stars seem to bloom one after another, filling the darkness with quiet points of silver light. The moon rises slowly, casting a soft glow across the Nile, where the gentle current carries tiny reflections downstream as peacefully as it carried them yesterday, and as it will tomorrow. The village grows quieter with every passing moment. Doors have been closed against the cooling night air, though many remain slightly open to welcome the breeze. Oil lamps flicker behind small windows, their warm light dancing softly across mud brick walls before slowly growing dimmer. Inside one home, a family finishes its evening meal. A simple clay bowl rests in the center of the room. Only a few pieces of bread remain. The youngest son reaches toward them, then pauses. His grandmother smiles and breaks the last piece in half. She gives one part to him and quietly keeps the other for herself. The boy thanks her with a sleepy smile. No one speaks about generosity. It happens too naturally. The grandmother remembers doing the same for her own children many years ago. Perhaps one day this little boy will quietly do the same for someone else. Kindness often moves through generations without anyone noticing. The bowls are carefully washed. A daughter pours a little water over each one. Her mother wipes them dry with a linen cloth before placing them neatly against the wall. Nothing is left lying about. The house is prepared for another morning. The broom is returned to its corner. The grain basket is covered. The oven is checked to be certain the fire has completely faded. Every evening follows nearly the same peaceful order. Preparing for tomorrow begins before today has completely ended. Outside, the narrow streets belong mostly to the night. A few neighbors exchange quiet words before returning indoors. Their voices carry softly through the cool air. There is no need to hurry. No one is waiting for anything unusual to happen. The village rests easily inside its familiar routine. An elderly man sits alone on the flat roof of his home. This has become his favorite place after sunset. From here he can see the river shining beneath the moon. He can hear distant frogs calling from the marshes. He watches palm leaves sway gently against the star-filled sky. Sometimes he simply sits. He does not always think about anything in particular. After many decades of living beside the Nile, silence itself has become good company. The stars above him have guided countless travelers, farmers, fishermen, and merchants. They watched over his parents. They watched over his grandparents. Long after he is gone, they will continue shining above this peaceful valley. The thought does not make him sad. Instead, it brings him comfort. The world is steady. Life moves forward one generation at a time. Nearby, another family prepares for sleep. The youngest daughter yawns as her mother gently shakes out a woven sleeping mat. Dust rises for only a moment before disappearing into the night. The mat is laid across the smooth floor. A folded linen cloth becomes a pillow. It is simple. It is enough. Comfort in ancient Egypt is often found not in softness, but in familiarity. The child curls beneath the light covering. Her mother gently brushes a strand of hair away from her face. She whispers a few quiet words. Soon the little girl is asleep. Her breathing becomes slow and even. Tomorrow she will wake to another day that feels wonderfully familiar. Across the village, a potter finishes one final task before resting. Earlier in the day, he placed damp clay beneath a cloth to keep it from drying too quickly. Now he checks it one last time. The clay remains cool and workable. He smiles quietly. Tomorrow it will become bowls, jars, and cups. He covers it again with care. Nothing more needs to be done tonight. His workshop smells pleasantly of earth and river water. It is a scent that has followed him through nearly his entire life. He cannot imagine living without it. Farther down the lane, a carpenter oils the handle of one favorite chisel. The tool belonged to his father. The smooth wooden grip fits perfectly into his hand. Years of careful use have polished it until it almost shines in the lamplight. He remembers watching his father sharpen the same blade when he was only a boy. Now his own son watches him. The tool has served 2 generations. Perhaps it will serve 3. Objects in ancient Egypt often become family companions. They quietly witness lives unfolding. Morning after morning. Season after season. One household over, an elderly woman sits beside a small basket filled with flax fibers. Even though the day is finished, she twists a few more strands into thread before sleeping. The movement is slow, relaxed, almost effortless. Her fingers know exactly what to do. She no longer counts the turns. The thread grows a little longer. She smiles and places it neatly inside the basket. Tomorrow she will continue from exactly this place. Very little is left unfinished without reason. The quiet rhythm of daily life depends upon small acts of care. Beyond the houses, the fields rest beneath moonlight. The wheat no longer shimmers gold. Instead, it glows softly beneath pale silver light. The irrigation canals reflect the stars like narrow ribbons of glass. The day's warmth slowly escapes from the earth. Night insects begin their gentle chorus. A fox slips silently along the edge of the fields, searching for food before dawn. It leaves almost no sound behind. The land itself seems to breathe more slowly after sunset. Near the riverbank, several fishing boats remain tied securely to wooden posts. They rise and fall almost imperceptibly with the movement of the water. Their ropes creak softly. The boats appear to be sleeping as peacefully as the people in the village. Long before sunrise, they will return to the river. For now, they rest. The Nile never truly sleeps. Its current continues beneath the stars. Water slides past reeds, past quiet marshes, past sleeping crocodiles resting along distant banks, past villages much like this one. Every settlement along the river shares similar rhythms. Different families, different names, yet many of the same routines. Bread baked before dawn. Fields tended beneath the sun. Children learning from patient elders. Evening meals shared beneath fading light. The river quietly connects them all. Inside a larger home near the center of the village, a young scribe lies awake for a few extra moments. He thinks about the records he copied during the day. The grain counts balanced correctly. The storage jars matched the written totals. Everything was in order. He feels satisfied. Not because his work was remarkable. Because it was careful. Carefulness is deeply respected here. A steady hand. An honest measure. A well-repaired tool. A loaf baked properly. These things may seem small, yet together they hold the community together. He closes his eyes. Soon sleep arrives. Outside, the moon climbs higher. Its light reaches narrow streets where no one walks now. A stray cat slips silently between two homes. It pauses beside a grain store, listening. A mouse rustles somewhere inside. The cat waits patiently. Night belongs to patient creatures. Time itself seems to move more gently after dark. An old shepherd sleeps lightly beside the small enclosure where his goats rest. If one animal stirs, he opens his eyes immediately. Years of caring for the flock have trained him to notice even the smallest sounds. The goats trust his quiet presence. He trusts the familiar noises of the night. Nothing feels out of place. High above, the stars continue their slow journey across the heavens. They have watched countless evenings just like this one. Generations have lived and passed beneath their silent light. Kings have come and gone. Great temples have risen. Stone monuments have been carved. Yet for most people, life has always been built from smaller things. The smell of bread before sunrise. The cool touch of river water after long hours in the fields. The laughter of children chasing one another through dusty streets. The gentle wisdom of grandparents whose stories become part of family memory. The satisfaction of repairing a worn basket instead of throwing it away. The peaceful silence that settles after another honest day's work. These quiet moments rarely appear in great histories. Yet they are the true heartbeat of ancient Egypt. As midnight slowly approaches, the valley becomes almost perfectly still. The last oil lamps grow dim. Only the moon and the stars remain awake above the Nile. The river continues flowing with endless patience, carrying cool water through sleeping villages and fertile fields, whispering the same gentle song it has sung for thousands of years, wrapping every humble home, every resting worker, every quiet workshop, every shaded garden, and every peaceful family in the comforting certainty that when the first birds greet the coming dawn, another calm and familiar day will begin once more, just as it always has, and just as it always seems destined to do. The first hint of another dawn waits quietly beyond the eastern horizon. For now, the stars still watch over the Nile. The river continues its patient journey through the darkness, asking for nothing, hurrying toward nowhere, simply flowing as it always has. Along its banks, the villages rest beneath the cool night air. Mud brick walls hold the last warmth of yesterday. Palm trees stand motionless. Fishing boats rise and fall almost too gently to notice. Inside every quiet home, tired hands have finally become still. The farmer who spent the day tending the fields now sleeps peacefully beside his family. The baker who rose before the sun rests after shaping countless loaves. The potter's hands, once covered in cool clay, are folded quietly upon a woven mat. The fisherman's nets have been mended. The scribe's reed pen has been cleaned and set aside. The carpenter's tools wait patiently for another morning. Nothing asks to be finished tonight. Nothing asks to be hurried. The work can wait until the light returns. Perhaps that is one of the quiet lessons ancient Egypt leaves behind. For most people, life was not measured by grand victories or remarkable adventures. It was measured by ordinary mornings. By warm bread shared with family. By water carried from the river. By walls repaired before they crumbled. By seeds planted with hope. By children growing taller from one season to the next. By gentle conversations at sunset. By familiar faces waiting at the end of a long day's walk. These small moments, repeated again and again across countless generations, became something far greater than they ever appeared on their own. They became a civilization. Not only through temples of stone or monuments reaching toward the sky, but through quiet routines that held families together, villages together, and the rhythm of daily life together. The Great Pyramids still stand today. Yet they were built by people who returned home each evening. People who laughed softly with their children. People who grew tired beneath the desert sun. People who baked bread before dawn and rested beneath stars after dusk. Their names have mostly faded from memory. Their routines have not. Even now, if you imagine the Nile beneath a clear night sky, it is easy to picture them. A small lamp glowing inside a mud brick home. A loaf cooling beside a clay oven. A basket waiting by the doorway. Sandals resting neatly on the floor. A gentle breeze carrying the scent of fresh water through an open window. The quiet breathing of a family asleep after an honest day of work. The river flowing steadily beside them all. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. Only peace. The moon slowly continues across the heavens. The stars drift silently overhead. The cool air settles across the reeds. Somewhere in the darkness, a night bird calls once before falling silent again. The Nile keeps flowing. Just as it did yesterday. Just as it will tomorrow. And as this ancient land slips gently back into the stillness of another peaceful night, may your thoughts become as calm as its quiet waters, your breathing as slow as the evening breeze through the palms, and your rest as deep as the timeless silence that has settled over the banks of the Nile for thousands of gentle years. Sleep comes softly now. The river keeps watch. The stars remain above. And the ancient world, peaceful and unchanging, slowly fades into silence.